not surprisingly, I mean, I've tried very hard to listen to what you've been writing and saying, and to get myself sort of within your context, but I hope also to bring the perspective of knowing what happens in other places and what works in other places. I think we've learnt, haven't we, that historically a local churches together group was the engine of ecumenism in a place. It was how it happened, how it was done. But now we're in a situation where people have got the message. They're actually wanting and understanding the need to work together to a greater or lesser degree. And that's something to celebrate. That's been the journey, and that's something to rejoice in. So what is it that Churches Together in Farnham can bring to the party in this new context? Well, I've listed down some things. Didn't know Jonathan was going to refer to icons, but I've talked about that there is a need to maintain the icons of ecumenism, like the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity and the Walk of Witness and Lent things and new things, maybe, like the relationship with your own local strategic partnership in Waverley. And then there will be, and to look at maybe there will be new things. Lots of places, I mean, various places, people are looking anew, for instance, as how they do their walk of witness. That in a world where everyone knew what Good Friday was, a group of Christians walking together silently was a piece of witness. These days it may well just be a piece of puzzlement. So, you know, that's for you to examine in your context. Because lots of good things are happening locally, and because people want to know about them, and because they want to benefit from them, join in with them where it's appropriate, learn from them, then the whole communication structure is very important. So yes, a website. The person that I set my Churches Together in Surrey website up with was very adamant that it should be simple, that when you opened a website there wasn't this great wave of stuff coming at you that you couldn't see what. And sometimes I go to Churches Together and see websites and I compare it with others and I think this is really, you know, this is a bit too sparse. But then I talk to other people and they say, no, others are far too complicated. So something needs to be very simple with however you set it with taglines, so as people can go on their own journey through things. But you only have to go there for the thing that you want to do, unless you want it for, unless you've got the time and the leisure to look wider. A contact list, but a contact list that's, and I understand sort of data protection things, but at least the representatives from each church should have provided to them a list of the representatives from every other church so that they know how to make contact. And maybe there should also be a list of publicity people, so that when you want to say that something's happening, would you like to join with us, then you cut out the links in the chain. The shorter the chain to the person who's going to press the button or write the text that's going to get it out into a community, the better it's going to be. It doesn't depend on people remembering to do it. You talked last year about a Facebook site, and perhaps that as a discussion forum has some merits. And I mean, a merit place perhaps as a place, for instance, to be talking around the food bank issue. I mean, my little sort of bit to drop into that conversation would be that I know of several places where they have a similar scheme, and the churches are actually a collecting point. It's promoted as tin a week. So the idea is when you do your shopping, you buy something extra, as the video said, but you take it along to church, and there's a bowl or a bag, whatever, to put your stuff in, so that it can be collected. If we're going to work with the reality that is the life of churches in Farnham, then people need to be free to work in their relationship groups, not called into the centre constantly. And this idea of just having the one meeting of Churches Together in Farnham is a brilliant way forward for that. But there needs to be a sense of churches together in Farnham providing an opportunity for you to be critical friends of one another, to be telling the truth in love to one another. If I'd had the time, and perhaps a bit better sense of the geography, I would have loved to have drawn in on a map all the different networks that people identified as their church network, their primary networks of the churches that they worked with. And some of that would, yes, boil down to geography, but some of it would boil down to we like working with people who are like us. So there needs to be a bit of challenge to one another to move out of your comfort zones, and that I think is a role for the collective. A role to be listening and discerning what's going on. Somebody this evening has used the phrase "ear to the ground" to make links, so that you know what's happening. I find churches together groups, especially big churches together groups, if they have a well-functioning email group, then that really sends stuff buzzing around. I mean, I can be one person on an email group of a churches together group, and you can see a problem being solved or a conversation developing just as things go around it. And if you're not, if you're not interested, I mean, I know now that when the agenda for a meeting that I'm not going to go to comes around, I can delete it, because in a minute I'm going to get the minutes. I mean, I'll have read the agenda and see if I can add anything to it, but I don't need to keep it. I mean, you can be selective, but to have that opportunity to hear the conversation going on is very helpful. And it also, from my point of view, to be linked into that email group means that I can tell other people about good things that you're doing, or maybe tell you what someone else is doing that can be helpful to you. And then there will be moments when it's good to have an event, when there's an issue like, I mean, the obvious one recently obviously has been the hustings, but from time to time there will be issues in the life of the community, or in the life of the churches maybe, where it's appropriate to be having an event. But it's not like saying, we've got 4 meetings in a year and we've got to fill them with something. It's saying, this is something that we are all interested and concerned about. How can we inform and stimulate our engagement with that? So what would an organisation that addressed those things that I've talked about and that you've talked about too look like? Something that really does build up the body of the churches in Farnham. Well, I think first and foremost, it actually needs to be a coming together of people who are rooted in the core life of their member churches, so that they have an ongoing knowledge of the activities and the future potential activities of those churches, so that that bit of coordination and that not wasting of resources that we've just been talking about can begin to be a possibility. And then they come together with other people who've got that depth of knowledge, and they can see where the possible bits of added value of various sorts, or maybe challenge, or maybe filling in a gap can happen. And it means that the knowledge that you then have at the centre will be as up to date as the knowledge that you have at this moment in time from that questionnaire exercise. It's going to need people with communication skills, people who have administrative gifts that I don't have, who do actually find that their ministry is actually to be doing those sort of tasks of making those engines of communication work. And so you have something that's organisation rather than meetings based, and hopefully that will then be something that really will seem like something that's of service to you all, rather than another thing that stretched people feel that they have to do in order to be faithful to the idea of working together.